Everyone, I am Paulette, the founder of MindVerge. We are a global youth organization reaching over 20 plus countries. We are focused on mental health and student well-being. Today is a very special guest session. I am joined by Izzy, a mechanical engineering student and a massive advocate for mentorship and student wellness. Izzy, thank you so much for being here. To get us started, can you tell us about who you are and what your journey in STEM has looked like?
Yeah, thank you, Paulette, for that introduction. I can start by introducing myself. So, hi everyone, I'm Izzy. I'm from the Philippines and I'm a senior in high school. So, basically, I'm an aspiring mechanical engineer who is currently working alongside mentors at the Department of Science and Technology for my country here in the Philippines. And for my personal projects, I essentially focus on bioengineering and renewable energy. So, as per the things I do in my free time, I'm the Director of Operations and Mechanical Engineering at the Clear Vision Foundation for my country. I'm essentially a research fellow at Electric Sheep and Non-Trivial. I'm the Vice President for Outreach and Finance at MedMission and YP Match, and there's tons more, but I can't really remember. So I'm doing all of that while simultaneously fighting through senioritis. So if I were to put that in a nutshell, I'm essentially your typical Asian nerd who loves music, science, and research. But now I'm here with you guys, and I really want to discuss my experiences in applying for colleges, how I navigated all of this throughout high school, and how I started basically from no network at all, since I came from a school that was just starting out their high school program. Um, we were predominantly an art school, so we had no resources for us STEMmies. So yeah, and basically the Philippines has basically no accessible opportunities for STEM high school students, especially those from low-income backgrounds. So I just wanted to come here and talk about how I navigated through those challenges to be where I'm at today. So,
Yes,
I
think that's an interesting start. So, what first sparked your interest in mechanical engineering specifically?
What sparked my interest in mechanical engineering? Well, it kind of started off back when I was in like the 6th grade, since I was really into animation, like I was really into art and all of that. But then, like towards late middle school, I realized that I guess my interest lied in architecture, but then it shifted again back in 10th grade because what really pushed me to go into mechanical engineering was the fact that I could like balance my logical side with my art side. Because one of the things that kind of pushed me away from architecture and animation was the fact that like if I were to do art for as a job, I would essentially lose the passion. So for mechanical engineering, it was a great balance for me. What really pushed me over the edge was this like project I did for 10th grade. It was like this bridge making project, but I was the one spearheading it for my class. We had a law stipulation we had to follow, but it really pushed me over the edge to really pursue mechanical engineering because I was the one making everything. I did the schematics, I did the design, and I did the product testing. And, you know, for a bridge that weighed like 20 grams, we were able to carry about like, I think it was like 30 books, 30 science books. So I think that's what pushed me over the edge to be like, yeah, I really want to do mechanical engineering. But other than that, it's just the aspect, like how cool it is. Because when you think of mechanical engineering, you think of robotics, you think of coding, you think of electrical engineering. It's essentially the jack of all trades for all aspects of engineering. And that's really why I want to pursue it, because it opens so many doors for you. And it basically encompasses everything that I'm passionate about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. I can definitely see how the passion also developed. So, as an international student, what was the biggest culture shock you faced when you first started your academics?
Okay. That's a great question, Paulette. Because like when you compare, um, let's say Western colleges to international students, like the academics here, it's vastly different.
Yeah.
Because here in the Philippines, like for academia, that's like the main thing here. You have to have the best grades, best everything. You're not really an all rounder. You don't have extracurriculars. Organizations are just there for you to network in. There's no real impact that you have. Another thing is the fact that like they don't push for you to, I guess, develop your passions. Because in the Philippines, most of the things that high school students can join, they're hidden behind paywalls. So I have to pay like almost a month's salary here just for me to attend something for like a week. And then the most of the things that people pay for here for high school students is tutoring. It's like Kumon, stuff like that. They don't do anything for like quote unquote fun, because if you do, it's like it's really really expensive. And then like it's just the weight and the pressure that's put on you, because in the West, when you compare, us students are not like, you're not pushed for academia. Like, of course, you have to do good in school, but you have to be also equally as good in extracurriculars. But here in the Philippines, in Asian countries, and international countries, that's not really the same thing. You're pushed for academics. You're pushed for grades. You have to be the top cream of the crop of your class, but they don't really care about your, I guess, things that you did throughout high school. Like, if I were to do research, like the colleges here would not ask for that, because the only way for you to get into colleges here in the Philippines is by taking an exam. They don't even ask you for like your previous experiences, like your projects or anything. It's more so numbers based. So what I'm saying is TLDR, international schools here in the Philippines, they focus solely on academics. That is your main contributor to get into the best college that you can. It's tests, it's exams, it's the things that you prepare for a long time. But for the West, let's say US, Canada, UK, they focus on you holistically, which is something I really wish that was like implemented all over the world.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the difference between the West and also internationally with different countries. Going to maybe
Yeah.
for like colleges, they mostly look at your grades only. They don't look at other aspects of your journey to college. It just mainly focus on your grades. Yeah,
Yeah, they really don't.
yeah.
It's
Then
just like a frustrating thing.
yeah. Moving to the field itself, what does ability in STEM mean to you personally?
So that's a great question, Paulette, because accessibility is one of the most like things I really struggled with as an international student. It was so frustrating for me because again, in the Philippines, you don't have anything. You don't have structure. If you want an internship, number one, you have to either have daddy's money or you have to be a college student. And I'm neither. I'm just someone with no network. I was like a high school student. I just started the 10th grade. I wanted to do something for my passion, engineering, but I couldn't. So for me, accessibility in STEM, in mechanical engineering, and those things would probably mean more programs here in the Philippines. It's something I'm actively trying to work on to make possible, because I really want students here in the Philippines to have an equal chance, to have like to stand equally against students from other international countries, from the West, from the South, all of that, because people for the Philippines are one of the most brightest people I've ever met. Like, I have classmates who are top tier in a certain field. They have a certain niche. They fit perfectly for, I guess, quote unquote, Ivy Leagues, but they're never ever given the chance to shine. They don't know about these things. They don't know about the scholarships, how there's different types of like application cycles, or different types of things they need, the requirements. All they know throughout their life is study, wake up, eat, study, wake up, eat. It's just so difficult because for me, accessibility is more so the access to information. Of course, it's in the name, accessibility. It's mostly the availability for a student to know these things, because I only started my preparation for these U.S. colleges back in the 10th grade, late 10th grade, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know that I had to take an exam. I didn't know that there's opportunities for me outside of the Philippines. I didn't even know that I could gain, I guess, internships or leadership positions outside of my school. And for me, it would have been great to have like a framework or someone to tell me that I can do this, I can do that.
Yeah, and I think it could also be very overwhelming when you you don't know anything about having access to possibilities, and I could,
Yeah.
yeah. So I also like the perspective of because you could feel overlooked because you have no idea about something you probably existed. Okay, so speaking of being overlooked, do you feel like there's enough focus on mental health in engineering world right now?
To be really specific, I don't believe so, because especially in high school, in the Philippines, you had to pick. Once you enter the 11th grade, you had to pick a program. So for me, I picked STEM, and I picked STEM because that was my passion. But the thing is, there's no focus on mental health. These institutions, they like to say, oh, we focus on mental health, we focus on mental health, but then they give you so much homework, they give you so much work, you forget to eat, you forget to sleep. In the Philippines, we have this term called puyat. Puyat, which means to stay up all night, do something, to do work, because it's just so common for us students to just not sleep at all, to just have at least, like, let's say within a week you have like 30 minutes of sleep. That's how much work is put on a student, especially in STEM, especially if you're in engineering. That's why it's such a joke that engineering majors, they stink. They stink because they don't have time for hygiene. They don't have time to think about themselves. You only have time to just do work. And if that's why extracurriculars and leadership opportunities, they're not pushed for us students. They're not pushed for engineering or for international students who wish to go into STEM, because you are just essentially pushed to work. That is what you're supposed to do. Work every day, all day, all until you're like 60 years old and you reach retirement age. And it's so frustrating because um, there's another factor that plays into that. You know, women are not, I guess, really represented within engineering spaces. It was one of the most difficult things I had to go through because I'm a tutor for kids in elementary school, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and one of the things that was told to my students was like, you can never pursue engineering because you are a woman. And that's another thing that really affects like mental health in these spaces, is the lack of representation, the lack of like encouragement. Because of course, as people that go through all these issues that have to just study, you'd think that there'd be like support groups, people that really actively encourage each other to do things. But no, they just put each other down because of their gender, because of their sex, and it's not viable. It's not a good look. So for me, I believe that mental health in these spaces have a lot of work to do, but it's actively changing. It's actively like developing. So I really hope that in the future, if I play a part in it, that engineering, especially STEM, becomes more accessible, becomes more inclusive.
That's a great point. I see the gap between, as you said, the example with genders, when there's a gap between females and males in working places, or it could also be in schools and opportunities. But on a more positive note, what is the coolest research project you have worked on so far?
Okay. There's like a lot, but I'm gonna say like the most recent one. But I'm not gonna give out so much detail because I'm gonna publish it. So I really don't want it to be copied. But
That's
one of
okay.
the yeah. So one of the most coolest projects I'm working on right now is a new framework for a type of renewable energy. So I'm not gonna say much, but based on like a year of research and everything, it's something that hasn't been created yet. It's something that works on its own. It's like a mechanism that's self maintaining. It utilizes organisms, it utilizes energy, and it makes it so it creates so much energy. It's a improvement from another type of renewable energy source. And it combines like a lot of aspects of it to create some sort of like like super integrated technology that goes through a lot of processes in order for you to gain energy for your home. So it does a lot of things. It reduces like air pollution while also giving you a lot of energy. It also cools down buildings. So it's like an early prototype that I'm working alongside like my country's like Department of Science and Technology, like a mentor from there. But it's a really cool project, and I'm like in the middle of like implementing it. And another project I'm working on is I forgot what it's called. It's called Project Morphus. So this one I can share because I'm not going to publish this, but it's essentially a framework where engineers, especially those that work in the agricultural sector for animals and such, I'm working on a system where they could upload their CAD files, for prosthesis, because according to the research I've done, 100% of canine animals, like dogs, domestic animals, they undergo at least one injury or bad experience with prosthesis. So what I'm trying to make is a system that essentially helps these engineers to tailor these prostheses to make it more well-fitting. So if that were to happen, if that were to be successful, then I want to venture to more like wildlife spaces because they're the ones that need the help most. But I'm starting out with like domestic animals like cats and dogs since they have bigger databases. So those are two of the most like interesting projects I'm working on right now. So yeah.
I think that sounds amazing and also incredible. Since you're involved in so many initiatives, how do you actually plan your week without getting overwhelmed?
That's a great question. Like I have classmates that ask me that, like, "Oh, Izzy, you're always working on something. You always have a meeting. You always have something that you're doing." Because not only do I have school organizations, I have outside organizations. I have work. I have internships. I have programs. I have things that I'm helping my mom out for, my parents out for. I have things that I'm working on my own like projects. Like the research stuff that I spoke to you about. So they always ask me, how do you manage your time? How do you have so much time to do all these things and also have time to do absolutely nothing? Like you have time for yourself to do hygiene, to shower, all those basic things. And the secret is, number one is to love what you're doing, which is so generic, but you have to love what you're doing because if you love what you're doing, you won't. Well, it's oftentimes that you won't get burnt out because I had this thing that happened to me last year. I was doing a lot of things. Like I filled my bucket so much, but I filled it with things that I wasn't even passionate about, and that's why I got burnt out. Because if you start doing things that you dread, then you won't feel passion anymore. You won't feel like you love what you're doing, want to continue what you're doing. No, you're gonna feel like it's a chore. And that's actually why I kind of stepped away from doing architecture, from doing animation, and to shifting into mechanical engineering, because I realized my passion for those two fields were just dwindling. And that's why I switched to mechanical engineering, because I know that even if the coursework is a lot, I will enjoy doing it, and that will keep me from being burnt out. And to tackle your question on how do I do everything in like a week or so, well, I set out time. I set out specific time formats for each project I'm working on. So my main priority is studying. I study about 2 hours a day. So that means I block those out first. So I block out school. I have school on this day, that day, and this day. And then after that, I have study on this time, all throughout the week. And then after that, I schedule stuff for my activities. Oh, I have a meeting for this time, and then I have to do a project on these times so I can finish it off. I have to study for my midterms here, and then I have to work on my projects here. That's essentially how I structure everything out. And one of the most like things I'm grateful for is my school. We don't have school on Fridays. We don't have school on Fridays because all throughout Monday all the way to Thursday we have school from 8 to 5. So I think it's a good trade-off because on Fridays I can treat it as like my like debriefing session for myself where I just rest. But yeah, essentially that's what I do. You know, you have to number one love what you do. Don't love what you do so you don't get burned out, and then you plot everything out. Like you have to use Google Calendar as like your best friend.
Not having school on Friday sounds very fun. And I agree, it's all
Yeah,
about balance. Yeah. And I also
it's
agree
just really cool,
when
you
you
know.
said, yeah, it's all about balance. For those watching, what are the early warning signs you notice when you're starting to feel burnout or stressed out?
Yeah, that'd be great. This question, if I was back in the 10th grade, because I was just so confused. Like, why am I so tired? Why does everything seem so bleak? Um, so the signs of burnout for me, because it's different for everyone, is the fact that everything just blends together. Every single day seems like the same. Everything is like gray, nothing stands out. It's like my mind is on autopilot. Like I can't really focus on anything, and there's nothing to focus on. It's like I'm not sure if you know, like if you put watercolor on a canvas and then you spill water all over it and everything starts blending together. That is essentially what it feels like. Like everything is blending together, nothing stands out, and you feel like you're just operating on absolutely nothing. Like if I wake up at 8 a.m. and let's say my school ends at let's say 6 because I had like a school meeting or something like that, nothing would feel different to me. Like I would just be like operating based on what my calendar says or whatever. Nothing would just stand out. And another factor would be the fact that you'd feel so tired. Like even if you're operating autopilot, the moment you get home, you go to sleep immediately for 10 hours because you're so tired of the day. But then when you wake up from your sleep, you're tired of sleeping. It's just a never ending cycle, and there's like almost no way to get out other than trying to, I guess, have a change of scenery. And that's why I do daily walks often because that really clears my mind. Because for burnout, it's one of the most difficult things you can experience. It's one of the most difficult things you can um, go through because it's hard to get out of because you're always in this constant cycle of like nothingness. That's the thing I can explain it as. When you experience burnout for the first time, it's like nothingness. It's like extreme tiredness and bleakness for everything. Everything is just gray for you. It's almost as if like I'm not sure if you've seen those photos of like Gen Z kids and when they were kids versus now. It's like pictures of really oversaturated colors. But when you're burnt out, everything is desaturated. Like I'm not sure how to explain the feeling, of like waking up and knowing that and not like noticing anything. Everything is just blending together. Everything is just bleak and gray. Like there's nothing going through your mind. Nothing. It's essentially just you on autopilot. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think many of us can relate to those signs, but it can also be a picture of feeling
Hello?
like you always have to be productive. Do you hear me?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I do. It's just you lagged for a little bit.
How do you deal with internal pressure of feeling like you always have to be productive?
Ah, okay, okay. That's a great question too. All the questions you're asking are like really hitting a spot there. It's really good. It's like I don't know how you did that, but it's really hitting a spot for the things I really want to talk about this session. So yeah. So
Thank you.
your question is, yeah, your question is, how do I deal with the pressure of feeling like I have to do like everything right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you come from an environment where everything is about studying, you're pushed hard, you kind of grow some type of like destigmatized, like you get used to being pressured a lot, but that's not healthy at all. So I was never really that person, you know. In high pressure situations, I kind of panic a lot, but I've learned to kind of control it, so I'm more like calm. But when you deal with so many things, when you deal with wanting to do so many things, you need to always just take a breather. You need to just know that you need to calm down because you can't do everything. There's a time and place for things, and it will always come to you, if fate allows it to. But you always need to chill out. You always need to take a breather. You always need to take a step back because there's no way you can do all of these things at the same time. The reason why I was so burnt out in the 10th grade was because I felt like I was behind. Like I felt like if I didn't do this one thing, oh my goodness, I will never be able to be successful in as a mechanical engineer. And that was a really toxic mindset because it set me in some type of cycle. Like I have to do this, but I'm so tired. But I have to do it, but I'm tired. It feels like you have this thing in your mind that's telling you, oh, chase after this. Because if you don't chase after this, it'll be gone. You'll never be able to get it again. And that's a really toxic mindset. And that's why I learned to take a breather. Because even if you feel like you're not qualified, you will always be qualified. There will always be opportunities for you. Because even if I just started in the 10th grade, I have like my resume is so packed with things that I'm like really passionate about, projects that I've done. And I couldn't have done that if I just kept grabbing things without even thinking about it. No, it only happened because I took a step back. I took a breather. Because most of the things I did in 10th grade, I wasn't able to put in my like CV or resume it was not even notable for me. That I don't even remember it in my mind because I was just so groggy. I was just so tired. I was just so burnt out from the things that I was doing. I wasn't even enjoying it. But now that I took a step back, now that I took a breather, that I chilled out, I was able to do things I actually like. And even if it was a lot, it didn't feel pressuring because I enjoyed doing it. If you rely on a goal and don't focus on yourself, everything that you do is going to be dreadful. You will hate it, you will get burnt out. If you mix that pressure in with I guess passion, with motivation, with a want to do something, with a want to do something for yourself, for I guess self improvement or to learn more about your passions, then you will enjoy. Then you won't feel burnt out at all.
I think that's also a great mindset shift. So, aside from school, what is your favorite non-academic hobby that helps you clear your head?
All right, so now we're getting on to the personal questions. So, what is
Yeah.
something that I can do that I do outside of school? Since I'm like your very stereotypical Asian nerd, I love research, I love science, I love math. That's so weird to say. I love math. I love solving problems. I love tutoring and all of that. But there's just like one thing that I do that kind of like it's kind of nerdy. It's kind of not nerdy. I like I'm not sure if you know like 3D puzzles, like wooden puzzles. I like setting those things up because honestly, doing something with like a specific goal in mind just keeps me occupied and clears my head. And then like another thing that I like doing is I'm a musician, so I play the piano, I play the drums. So whenever I do those, it kind of like clears my head a bit because if I'm frustrated or I'm just like really mad, I can just hit the drum set or I can just like jam it out on the piano. But like other than those two that I do, I take a walk. Like I said before, I like walking a lot. Um, Even if it's because not only is it a physical exercise, but you're doing something that constantly keeps you busy. Because when you walk, you can't like stop in the middle of nowhere. You just have to keep walking. It's like therapeutic to do something that keeps you busy. Us humans, we love social interaction. Walking keeps you social because when you're out and about, you get to talk to people, you get to network, you get to gain at least communication skills. Because back in, I guess, the pandemic, we didn't have that. I remember, like, I was low-key so, like, scared to talk. Like, even in this type of setting, with you, Paulette, talking one-on-one, I couldn't do that. I was just so scared to. I was like, I was so like filled with dread in with interacting with people. But once I introduced like, you know, daily walks, I talk to people when I'm at school. All of that faded away because you gain the confidence. That's the great thing about doing things outside of academics, outside of school, because you're not cooped up in your room. You're not like, an individual in an individual setting.
It's so important to have that outlet because obviously you have school, you have academics, but also
Yep.
having something different also sort of occupies you outside of school. Do
Yeah.
you have any specific morning or night routine that keeps you grounded throughout the day?
Okay, this is very, very, very important because back when I was like a little younger, starting off high school, I did not have any routine. I woke up when I wanted to wake up and I slept when I wanted to sleep. I had no routine at all because again in the Philippines we have this thing called puyat. Puyat meaning you do everything, you don't sleep, you don't eat, you don't do anything until you finish your work because that is the mindset. You have to have the quote unquote grind set. But once I introduced like um calendars, plotting everything down, keeping everything formatted, it really kept me going. It really helped for me specifically. So in the morning, I wake up at like 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock is my school starts at 8. Sometimes it starts at 9:40. Really depends on the school. They like to surprise you like that. But I wake up at 5:30. I get ready in like 20 minutes, and then I leave because I commute. So I gotta take the LRT, which is a train. But beforehand, I gotta go and start off at like a jeepney. I'm not sure if people know what jeepneys are. It's essentially like repurposed American Jeeps that were used during the World War. So we use those as commuting, like transportation. So I ride that and then I go on the train and then once I reach my stop, then I'm already at my school. This is right in front of the train stop. So I just go down and then there I'm at school. But then like let's say at night. Actually, more importantly, let's talk about what I do is I look at my calendar, I plot things down because, of course, after school, they assign so much homework. You have a meeting. Let's say I'm done with my meetings. Let's say I'm done with all those things. I just essentially the same thing again. Go on the train, take the jeepney, and go back home. And then at night, I essentially do like a couple hours of studying. While I'm doing studying, I do my homework, and if I have time, I work on the projects that I'm in right now. So I work on, like I said before, clear vision. I work on personal projects. I work on research. Actually, one of the reasons why I'm able to pursue like these projects is even if my school doesn't have many opportunities, one of the greatest things about Philippine high schools is the fact that they require research. Like it's a subject that you get graded in, so you really gotta be like mind blowing when you do your projects there, because they really look for like niche subjects, and that's why I'm able to do so many of these projects, because I'm really good. Like I was trained to find things that are that's like a research gap and a way I can improve things. So at night, after I finish all those things, I just I just doom scroll on my phone. Like I doom scroll on my phone a lot, especially during school. But at night it gets worse. I doom scroll for like an hour or whatever. If I go to sleep, it's probably about at I don't know, like 11 p.m. because I have a lot of things to work on, and I get off at school at like 5. So that gives me like not a lot of time to do stuff, but I manage.
Yeah, I mean, having a routine is important as well. Okay, let's talk about applications and future goals. So,
Yep.
application season is a really huge stressor for our community right now. What was your mindset during that time?
Oh, okay, okay. Great question, since this was one of the things that, kind of ruined me back in early high school, because I had this mindset that if I don't do this thing, I will not be able to achieve my dreams. Like I thought my only way out was to go to a school abroad, to get into an Ivy League, to get into a U.S. school. But that's not the only way for you to be successful. But just a little background my mindset that I just hate. I just thought like if I don't do something, if I'm not busy, I that means I'm failing. That means I'm falling behind. When in reality I wasn't. When you compared me to everyone at my school, I was doing the most. Like I had like 3 school organizations, and then I had like 20 things I was doing outside of school, and then I had like 5 projects. It really overwhelmed me. But like low key for college applications, the reason why it was so pressuring was the fact that everyone, especially on Reddit, on social media, they kept pushing this fact that if you don't have Olympiads, if you don't have SATs or anything or all of that, you will not do good in application season. You will not be able to do anything at all. You won't be successful. That's the message they really advertise, which is really not good. It's really unhealthy. And I really thought that. I really thought I was a failure. I really thought that even if I was doing all of these things, I low-key had no chance. But then towards like the ninth, no, not the ninth grade, the 11th grade, like the time I actually had to apply, that's when I started to like become more calm, because I realized that, hey, I'm actually somewhat on par to other students. And if you compare me to other domestic students in, like, say, Western areas like America, I'm doing pretty well. If I'm able to show off my story, that's all that matters. I don't need all of these things that dampen up a resume that's already dampened enough. I kept going for things that had no impact. I kept going for things because I thought they looked cool. But then I just tired myself out. And that's why college applications for me were kind of like a 50-50, because I worked so hard for something, but then towards the end you realize, hey, I didn't really need to do that. I really dialed back on the work that I did because, I really had to prioritize my education then because, uh, grades in your junior year are really important too. So that's what I did. Um, I really just took my time. I took a step back. I chilled out a bit, and it worked. Um, because the thing that these schools look for aren't just extracurriculars. It isn't just grades. It's a story. And if you're able to show yourself, show your personality, show what you do, you'll be able to get in. Even if it isn't like a top tier school, you'll get in to any school you'd like as long as you are able to, I guess, market yourself. Not really market, but I guess show off your story. Because you gotta keep in mind, extracurriculars are very important, yes. Same with grades, same with test scores. But they're not the only factor. They have to know about you because extracurriculars and grades, they're prerequisites. You have to already have them. They're important, yes, but they're not the only factor they think of when they admit a student. You have to have excellent essays. You have to really show off you have a passion for this thing. Or you went through this, but look at you now. You have to show development. And it was because of that I was able to gain um for the schools that I did early admissions to, like EA admissions to, I was able to get in for all of the schools that I got that I applied to. I was able to get 50% merit scholarship. And that's with scholarships that I didn't even apply for. It's when I submitted my application, when the college reviewed it and started to provide scholarships for, for me. It wasn't something I applied for. It was something I was given because I was able to structure my application in a way that showed myself. I'm not just a student that has this, that. I'm not just a student that has like great grades or whatever. I'm a student that has a story. And that's what you have to keep in mind when you do college applications, because it's not only about the stats. It's about the story that you promote. Because they look at, oh, you did this in high school, you took AP classes, you took honors, but what about you? Because so many students have good grades, so many students have honors, so many students came from low income backgrounds. So what's new about you? And so that's really what you should focus on when you're applying for colleges. Your story. Who are you individually?
Yeah, also, this phase of applications, it's really stressful, it's high pressure, and
Yeah.
as you already have talked about it, it's not just about your grades, extracurriculars. They're all important, but also your story, as you said, and explained well. I think that's
Yeah.
also a great part of it. So, how do you handle rejection or setbacks when you are going through this process?
All right. Great question. So, as a student starting from nothing, let's exclude college application. Let's say rejection in general. It's one of the most dreading processes, like for any student, for any person, to get rejected, to get an email. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get in for this. Oh, I'm sorry, we moved on to better applicants. That's an email I actually got. We moved on to better applicants. It's so, um, this, it makes you feel unimportant. That's what rejection feels like for some people. I know because I used to feel like that too. I used to feel like rejection for me was just dreadful, especially from people, especially when you want to ask them, oh, you want to be my friend? And they're like, nah, bro. It's just really stressful, and you have a lot of anxiety over rejection. But over time, I built this type of mindset, which really helps me, and I hope this helps a lot of people too. You should think of rejection as essentially another success, because you already did that thing. You approached, you applied, you acquired, but even if you didn't get it, that's still development that you can take to another opportunity. And that's the good thing about rejection, because you learn. You get to look back. Why did I get rejected? Like, you look back at it holistically. Why did I get rejected? What happened? It's more of a learning process. It's not like, like the end of the world. For me, for my college application season, I applied and became a semifinalist for a 100% tuition scholarship. It was merit based. And, the reason why I stopped, I was like rejected from being a finalist, from gaining the scholarship. I was almost there. I was one of the 100 people that they chose. Very, very, very competitive. But I was only a semifinalist. And I got rejected after an interview and whatever. And it made me feel sad, but I realized that, people in the Philippines, people around the world, they rarely get that opportunity. I still did that. That was all me. I still did that. I still got into that position. Even if I failed, quote unquote, failed or got rejected, I still went through that, and it's a good story to tell. It's something, like, that's one of the things you have to think about. It's just story. It's a good story to talk about. I did this thing, I got rejected, but it was cool. I went through this process. I spoke to a lot of people. It was amazing. Even if I got rejected, there are opportunities there. And you always have to think about that. You have to always think about the fact that you are able to gain something. Everything that you do, you're able to gain something, even if it doesn't seem so at the moment. You get rejected, but what's the main thing that you learn? What's the main thing that you gain? Experience.
Also, generally, we look at rejection as a failure or something that makes us feel less valued. But your
Yeah.
perspective on rejection, of looking at the positive aspect of it and what you gain from it, or how you learned, or how you approached it, is also another way you can look at it, instead of just looking at it as a failure or you feeling less valued or looked at, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Looking back, what is one thing you wish you knew before beginning to apply for colleges?
So college application season is one of the most dreadful things you can do, especially as a junior in high school. Especially when you're just starting high school. I know some people, especially abroad, they started planning for college applications back in the 8th grade. That's how dreadful it was for every single person around the world. What do you do when you're a senior already and you don't have a school? That's one of the things that they scare you guys. They scare us about. I know people that start studying for college board entrance exams back in 6th grade, because here in the Philippines, to get into the top schools, you need to be really, really smart, because it doesn't matter if you have good grades, doesn't matter if you have experience. Everything settles on this exam, this college board exam. So what's one thing that I wish I knew before applying to colleges? It's just to keep everything formatted, because there's so many documents, so many things that you need to know. Especially, let's say you want to apply to U.S. schools. I didn't know there were 3 ways to apply. I didn't know there was RD, EA, ED. I didn't know what the heck those were. There's also the fact that there's a difference in scholarships. There's number one, there's merit based, there's finance based, and yeah, or there's some that's based on the programs that you um worked in, um I'm not sure what it's called, it's like robotics or something, New Worlds Robotics, something like that. But there's a lot of different types of things, a lot of different types of opportunities, especially for international students. Even if you can't pay tuition, there is always a full ride tuition option for you. It's just gonna be very, very competitive, and you need to stand out, quote unquote, stand out. That's why you need to have a good story. That's why you need to think about you. not just the admissions, not just the college. You need to think about you. Another thing I wish I knew was to not be so ambitious. Like, ambition is good. To be passionate is good. But you need to balance ambition with humility. You need to balance it with reality. To know, you shouldn't expect so many things to happen to you. You still have to work for it. Like, when I applied to colleges, I remember, I thought to myself, because I was a little bit cocky, I was like, oh, I'm definitely getting in. And, I did get in, but the fact of the matter is, you can't just expect everything to happen just because you did everything for it. You should not, um, you should not be like a toxic optimist. That's the word for it. If you're too optimistic, you lose the script, you lose the framework, you lose everything, because that means you're not grounded anymore. Same with being a extreme pessimist. You know, extremes for both sides are really bad, because if you're extreme for any of the sides, you lose the goal in mind. You lose your framework, your footing. All you do now is just grovel, or all you do now is just soar high without ever feeling your foot on the ground. You don't feel authentic. It's not genuine, especially when you're applying to colleges. If you have any of those two highs, it's not gonna feel genuine. You really have to take a step back and take a breather. And then, like, one of the last things I wish I knew in college, but when I applied to colleges, was was it you have to be really strategic, as in you have to pick colleges that are right for you. And now you might be asking me, like, what does that mean? What do you mean college is right for you? I mean colleges that have the things you want. So for me, I had a little checklist that I did when reviewing colleges. I wanted a college that had co-op meaning internship programs integrated within the school curriculum. I wanted a school that was test optional, because I couldn't take exams, because, well, they were the monthly salary of the average person here in the Philippines, and there was no way I was going to make my parents pay for that. Another thing that I looked for was location. I didn't want to be in a snowy area, but if I was in a snowy area, it had to be really, like, booming. Like, I couldn't go to, like, Wyoming or something. Yes, the mechanical engineering sphere there is kind of okay, but it's not, like, great. It's not like Boston. It's not like California. But another thing you have to take into account is the fact that, like, some places don't offer scholarships, merit scholarships, financial aid scholarships. Like, some of the colleges I applied for, like USC, UCLA, I was thinking of applying to those, but then I realized they don't offer aid to me, because I'm not a Californian citizen, not a resident there. So that's why I ticked it off my list. One of the things that you have to take note of, especially as an international student applying, is finance. You have to make sure you can pay for that, especially for the what was it called, the application fees. Take note of every expense, not just tuition, but your overall cost of attendance. So that means the cost of, like, let's say, residence there, food, books, everything, because it's not just the tuition. I remember I was trying to look at Drexel University. It said that the tuition was 50K. But once you added the cost of attendance, like residencies, books, and everything, it jumped up to 80K. That's a lot of money. And that's why you really have to be smart in how you format everything. That's why I recommend that you make spreadsheets, that you format everything down, that you have routines, because once you have a routine in high school, you'll have a routine in college, and it's a good transition. It means you'll be a better and more organized person, and that you will be able to know when to take a step back and take a breather from all the work that you're having. Because once you enter college, everything's up for you. You won't have breaks anymore, unless you do it yourself. You'll feel more lazy because your schedule's all over the place, and everything is up to you now. And that's why it's good for you to start becoming independent, especially as a high schooler.
I like the idea of you not mixing your reality versus your ambitions. You have said it already that it's good to have ambitions and goals, but you have to also realize that you you probably wouldn't receive everything, even though you might take the exact steps to reach there. It doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't still mean that you would receive whatever it's your end goal is. I really like that too.
Yeah.
How do you manage being a leader in so many youth initiatives while also handling engineering course load?
Okay, so in my school we have like this STEM course load that's very packed with physics, chemistry, all of that. And so again, a lot of people ask me, how do you balance that? You have research projects, capstone projects, you have personal projects, personal capstone projects. And on top of that, I have like leadership roles in organizations at school, organizations outside of school. So you really have to pick and choose. That's one of the things that I learned about. Pick and choose. Because if you keep grabbing onto leadership roles and just saying, oh, I'll do this without even thinking about it, you are setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for burnout. Because the more work you take up, the less time you'll have to take a step back. The less time you'll have to, I guess, chill out. Because you won't have space for yourself anymore. Everything that you do is going to be for other people. It's going to be for an organization. And you're going to feel so overwhelmed to the point that you'll stop taking care of yourself. Again, like booyah, that term, you'll stop eating. That's what I did before. When I was back in the 10th grade, I was working so hard. I was so burnt out. There were periods of time for like 8 hours, for like 10 hours, I won't eat. I won't sleep. I won't drink. I won't take a bathroom break because I felt like I had to do something. I felt like I had to finish this one thing. And that's not good at all. That's not good. That's why to balance your coursework with the things that you're doing outside of school, you have to be, again, set up a routine. But other than that, just do things that you love. Don't take so many things at once. Again, pick and choose. Pick and choose the most important items, most aspects that you enjoy the most. Like for me, I still have drumming. I'm still a musician. I'm like that because I enjoy doing it. It keeps me occupied. It keeps me it I guess clears my mind when I have so many things to do. Because if I wasn't into those things, I'd just drop it because I know that there are things that require my time. You need to know how to, I guess, allot your time. You need to know that you are valuable and that your time is valuable. So, you know what to prioritize. That's another thing. Prioritization. If you don't know what to prioritize, again, you won't be good in a leadership position because you need to prioritize which leaderships to prioritize. Again, I'm saying the word prioritize a lot, but you need to know which ones to put in a hierarchy. And then within those organizations, you need to put in a hierarchy again which tasks to complete. You really have to make a list. You really have to make a routine. Because if you don't, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to lose your passion. You're going to get really tired and lazy. You won't be able to do anything. That's why you really need structure. Us humans, we thrive off structure. And that's why, it really works to have a routine. But some people like spontaneity. They like to do things without structure. That's great. But I recommend you still have a list. A list of things you want to complete that day. Because if you don't do anything without a goal in mind, especially for the day, you're going to get burnt out once you see all the work that you have to do, all the deadlines. You won't know what to prioritize and you'll get overwhelmed. And that's one of the worst things that you can do, especially if you're going to go for engineering, especially if you're going to go into STEM. Once you have your problem sets for chemistry, for physics, biology, all of those things, calculus, there's so many things you have to do. That's why you really need to have a list. You need to have a goal for the day. You need to know how to study, especially in blocks. You need to know how to manage your time, or else, you're gonna get really burnt out. You're gonna forget what to do. You're gonna forget an assignment. You're gonna forget a meeting, and it's gonna make you feel really bad because, you know, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, especially as a leader. So those are the things I guess one should think of when you have leadership roles and also STEM based academia. Number one, know what to pick and choose. Prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Number two, be passionate about what you do. Again, when you pick and choose, you have to pick the stuff that you love doing, that you're passionate about. You have motivation for something. And lastly, you need to, again, take a breather. Take a step back. Because you need to have routine, yes, but you also need to have time for yourself.
Yeah, again, yeah, it ties back to having passion for project because obviously you do want to try out different things, but there are certain things that you know you do not want to do, and trying to force yourself into those activities or extra curriculum or leadership roles isn't really healthy because in the end you will come back to square one. So it's having passion and picking projects that you truly love.
Yeah, that's essentially the point I'm trying to pull. Yeah, to really love what you're doing.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about mentorship and advice. Transitioning to mentorship, what do you think it's so important for students in STEM to find a mentor?
It's so important for students to find a mentor, even if it's like a parental figure, even if it's like a sibling or something, because it sets standards for you. It's okay if you don't have a mentor. It's okay if you don't have anything. But I recommend you at least have someone as a role model. Because that's what sets the standard. That's what gives you a roadmap. Because for me, I had a mentor for my research projects. Why? Because they guide you. They assist you. That's why people say you should have a research advisor, you should have a research mentor. They always push that out. You should cold email, have a research mentor, have a research mentor. Why? Because they're the ones that guide your framework. You're supposed to have mentors. You're supposed to have research. Um, you're supposed to have people that guide you to be your role model or anything. Why? Because again, they set your framework. Without my mentors, without teachers, without people to guide you, you wouldn't know what to do. That's why I'm able to have so many projects. Because I have people, I have mentors that help me, that guide me through the process. Why am I making a new set of renewable energy in my country when how would I be able to do that if I didn't have a mentor that was very intelligent, very skilled, and able to help me and guide me throughout that process? How would I be able to brainstorm so many things? How would I be able to make a framework, a website that could help engineers um, create prosthesis for animals? How would I be able to do any of that without a mentor? How would I be able to know what I even wanted to do as a aspiring mechanical engineer? That wouldn't be able to happen. Nothing I do wouldn't have been able to happen if I didn't have a role model, if I didn't have a mentor. So that's why it's so important for students, especially young people, the youth, to have someone to look up to. Because once you do that, not only do you have guidance, you have a framework to follow.
Yes, I also agree because we cannot do it alone. You have looking up to someone, even though you might think you can do it alone, by looking up to someone, you can see their mistakes they did so you don't just follow that path and fall into problem you probably could prevent.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, one of the biggest things that a mentor can do is just find what you're doing that's wrong. Because without a mentor, again, you don't have guidance. You could do
Mm,
something that's catastrophic and you wouldn't know because you don't have anyone that's telling you. you should do this instead of doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. So, how can a student find a mentor if they are shy or don't know where to start?
Okay. So, I was that kid. I was the shy kid, the shy nerd. I didn't know how to talk to anyone. Because during the pandemic, again, I lost most of my social skills. Because I was just so anxious. So, one of the things that I did to find a mentor, again, you don't really need to find a mentor. You can find a role model online, especially watching YouTube. Um, for me, I watched a lot of students, master students, pursue mechanical engineering. There are people that do vlogs, and those are the people that I looked up to when I didn't have mentors for research or anything. But let's say that you don't want that. You want someone interactive. That's where social media comes up. LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want. Honestly, you can find so many people. And even if you're shy, you know, speaking online, especially through text, you know, it helps a lot. Even if you're someone who's very introverted, someone that doesn't like confrontation, someone that doesn't like interaction, you can do that, and it really does help. But if you don't want to do that, if that's not something you're comfortable with, then it's okay. You can always just go online, find someone on YouTube, find their goals, what they did, and try to emulate that in yourself, emulate their qualities. Try to embody them. The saying, like, fake it till you make it, that's essentially what you have to do in order for you to do the activities you want. So that means you have to embrace the cringe, be embarrassing, be shameful, because without that, you wouldn't be able to, I guess, get out there yourself, learn. It is through exposure and experience that humans learn. Humanity has learned through a lot of exposure, a lot of experience. And that's why we are where we are for technology, for innovations and development in like AI and such. You really need experience. You really need to grow. That's why you need a framework. That's why you need a mentor. But if you don't have a mentor, you can have a role model. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's a sibling or a teacher or anyone. And also, if you really want a mentor face to face, you can always talk to your teachers. You can always talk to the faculty at your school, because they'll always be able to help you. If you're able to find the right person, there's always someone there that's willing to help students, and that's why that's one of the best things about face to face school. You'll be able to interact with people, and you'll be able to interact.
That's a practical advice, and I also agree. Even if you might be shy or introverted, social media is a great place, and also, as you stated, your teachers. But on that note, it's also very important to expose yourself because you might be introverted, but that isn't something bad. But if you are trying to reach more in the future or even now, trying to get out of your shell and expose yourself can be a great way. What would you say to a student right now who feels like they aren't smart enough to pursue engineering?
What I'd say is just try, just get into it, because the more that you fear getting into it, the more regret you'll feel once you pass that stage. I mean, of course, for engineering, you can get into that field, that subject at any time. But the thing is, there is some sort of satisfaction that you get when you pursue something the moment that you become interested in it. There is some sort of like satisfying feeling, like gratification that you feel. And that's why, for someone that feels like they aren't smart enough, excuse me, I'm someone that failed a lot of exams. I can take myself as an example. I thought I could never go into any STEM field. I thought that arts was for me. Not to say that arts isn't like a subject that like utilizes your brains and everything, but it was just a concept of mathematics, of science. I was afraid of numbers. I was so scared of taking the math exams, anything of the sort. Essentially, I was a bad student. I would fail every exam back in elementary, back in early high school, because I just hated school. Nothing was interesting for me. I just wanted to pursue my passions. But, there's a shift there. There's a responsibility I took. There's a goal that I had, that I set, and that's why I was able to do a major shift to become an honor roll student, someone in the top 8% of my entire school. I became someone that, has a lot of leadership experience. And that came from someone that was really, really, really socially awkward and socially anxious. If you feel like you're not good enough, just know that you are. Just try. Step out there. Just, you know, um, embrace the cringe. Be shameful. Be embarrassed. Because if you do it shameful, if you do it embarrassed, if you do it without expecting anything, if you do something when expecting failure, just know that you are crossing lines that not a lot of people have ever stepped on before. Because of course everyone is afraid of rejection, and that's why you're afraid to enter engineering. But just know that you should try it regardless, because there's always space for you. Just know that, let's say for example you are a woman. There are little girls out there looking up to you, believing that you are their role model. Because again, there's little to no representation for women in engineering. So just know that you're a pioneer. Just know that you are there to be a role model for kids that were once your age, that were once, I guess, confused. You are there to become a mentor as well. You are there to guide. And that's why it's great for you to come into engineering, for you to pursue STEM, for you to do anything really. Do it scared, do it afraid, do it embarrassed. That's the advice I'd give to students that want to pursue engineering but are like too afraid to put their foot in.
That's encouraging to hear, and it ties back to rejection and also trying, because as we already talked about rejection, when you try something, re- when you try something and you're rejected, you it's not just like it's done. You learn something from it, and I think
Yeah.
that's a great part of you trying to do something. How do you personally maintain your self confidence when you are in such high pressure environment?
Of course. For me, high pressure environments are like a motivator. Because, again, I come from a country where there's so much high pressure. You really have to adapt. At first, I was overwhelmed. I was like burnt out again, like I told you before. But eventually, you start to take it as confidence, as motivation. Because remember what I said before, pick and choose what you want. Prioritize what's important. Do the things that you love. And that is what's going to be able to set you free from that mental cage. I can't do this. I can't do this because I feel too scared to. I'm too anxious. I'm too afraid. I can't do this because I'm so overwhelmed. By setting routines, by setting guides, by knowing where you are, by, just taking a step back and resting and taking a breather, you'll know where to go eventually, even if it seems impossible. Because when I was first starting out, it was so difficult for me to do anything. I had no network. I had nothing. But that's when social media came in. That's why I was able to do anything that I wanted, to achieve the things that I have, because of social media. Because, again, in the Philippines, there's little to no opportunities for students, other than organizations. So that's where I started school organizations. Then I moved up to virtual organizations abroad, internationally. Then I started doing personal projects. Then that turned into international projects. Then that turned into national competitions, then international competitions. You know, Even if you don't know where you're at, even if you're afraid, even if you don't know what's going on, if you're overwhelmed or anything, you will find a way if you just stop and take a breather. Because, again, even if you don't believe in coincidences, even if you don't believe in fate, everything will always come back to you the moment that you need it. If you really work hard for it, something will come to you. It's like reverse karma. I'm not sure what it's called, but essentially you will get what's coming for you. Because even if it seems like at the time you're struggling through so much, you don't know what you're doing, you're overwhelmed, just take a step back. Take a breather. Take a break. Make a framework. Find a mentor or find a role model that could be your basis. And there you go. You'll be able to find something. You'll be able to draft something up. You will be able to get success.
I agree, and I just also wanted to add on to that also believe in yourself and the work you put in plus effort would eventually you would see result regardless of how long it takes. You put it in the effort and believing in what you're doing, you will for sure see results regardless of how long it takes.
Yes.
Finally, if you could go back to your 15-year-old self, what's one advice you would give to them?
For me, one advice would be, again, number one, set a routine. Back when I was 15, I kind of again, I did nothing. I was just so spontaneous. I had no goals in mind back when I started my day. I was just like, oh, I'll just go to school and then figure things out from there. I didn't even make my bed. That's one thing that someone should do. You should make your bed when you wake up, because it really sets the motion. That you will be productive that day. You'll do this that day. So number one would be set up a routine. Number two would be to know what to prioritize. I would tell my 15-year-old self, there will be a time where you'll be so burnt out, you wouldn't even know what hit you. So, prioritize breaks. Prioritize the things you love. Another thing I'd say is be open to adaptation. Because I did a lot of shifts. I planned my whole life about all around this one thing, but then I changed my interest. That was architecture. I researched everything about architecture. I learned everything about it. I was so fixated on that. But then I realized, this isn't my passion. You have to know when to move away from something that you're not passionate about. Because even if you worked on it for so long, you just have to know you won't be happy continuing it. Imagine yourself 2 months from now working on that same thing. Will you be happy? If not, you might as well just end it. You might as well just quit that activity. Because number one, you have other things to focus on. Other things you could have created. You don't need to focus your time on something that drains you, that you dread. Another thing that I'd say is like I said before, take a breather. Take a breather, take a break. You gotta know when to take a step back and take a chill pill. Because if you don't know how to do that, then you'll be burnt out. And no one wants to be burnt out. And the last thing I'd say is just do anything. Of course, prioritize the things that you like, but do anything scared. Do it scared. Do it embarrassed. Do it cringed. Do it shameful. Because the moment you do something, the moment you start, that's what keeps the ball rolling. Let's say you're afraid to join a club at school because you believe you don't have leadership experience. Well, how will you gain leadership experience if you don't try? That's why it's good to expect rejection, to chase rejection, because you never know. You could get an acceptance. So that's my advice. Do everything scared. Do everything afraid. Do everything without expecting success. Chase rejection, because rejection is the only way that you'll learn.
I agree, and I would also like to add on that throughout all this process, going through leadership positions and just academics and everything, just be you. Because sometimes we
Yes.
can get lost in trying so many things that it can lead to us stressing out. But just being you and reminding yourself the goal you had in mind before you started all this is very important because as you're growing, getting to more higher positions, you'll see different things that are surrounding you. But knowing who you are and your purpose, it's will help you keep moving forward.
Yes, that's a great point, Paulette.
Thank you. Okay. I think that's a perfect note to end our session today. This has been a real and honest conversation. You're giving so much to think about regarding balance, STEM, and just staying true to yourself. Before we go, where can our community find you or follow your work you're doing?
Uh, you can follow me at my LinkedIn. I could send it probably in the Discord, but I could give you like my LinkedIn. It's Izzy Saraza. It says in my description, I'm an aspiring mechanical engineer, passion for the sciences and climate action. But another way you can find me is through Instagram. Through Mind Bridges Instagram. I kind of post a lot there. Some stories or whatever. But most of the things that I'm doing, you can find it on LinkedIn because that's where I, keep everything plotted down. You can see my honors, my awards, some of the projects I'm working on, and hopefully that can help you, kickstart your experience, especially as high school students who wish to, you know, um, pursue STEM and everything. So yeah, that's like how I found some of the activities, honestly, by stalking people on LinkedIn and social media. So if stalking me helps, you might as well just stalk me so you can find activities that you love doing.
I love that. Okay, yeah, you can feel free to share the link to me. I'll add it to the description. And thank you for your time. To everyone watching this session, make sure to follow at Mindbraid Project for more sessions like this. If you're inspired by today's talk and want to join our team, our volunteer applications are open. Just check our Instagram. And thank you for everyone for watching. See you in the next one. Thank you, T. Bye.
Thank you, Paula. See you soon.